So now I'm going to talk about the second trend that is going to affect lives in the 21st century, which is very familiar. This is that the world is becoming urban. Just in China, you have 400 million people that are moving towards cities. In India, it's over 300 million, and this is a trend we see all over the world. The significance of this is that the cities that they're moving to cannot handle this surge in population. So the infrastructure is really creaking. And yet, we need to either build new cities or improve the city services that we have if we are going to accommodate this rush of urbanization. Now, cities are very important. You can't really dismiss them at all. In fact, if you look at the top 40 cities in the world, they represent over 25% of global GDP. This particular slide shows that most of these prominent cities are really in the West, in Europe, and also of course, in the United States. But if you look at the top 40 cities by population and growth, then they are increasingly in the South and in the East. And that's where the South Asian diaspora really comes into, I would say, focus, because it really has knowledge about a lot of these cities that we are going to see in Asia. So these are called smart cities, and smart cities are those cities where hybrid age technologies, these ubiquitous, intelligent social technologies, meet with global urbanization trends. And I think this smart city phenomenon is the most interesting and the most, I would say, transformative phenomenon that we're going to see in the early part of the 21st century. So what is a smart city? A smart city is essentially a city which has technology infrastructure, where all your government services, all your buildings, and your transport are connected through technology, and they constantly share information, and this information makes them smart and allows citizens to lead a better life, allows entrepreneurs to be able to do more, allows children to be educated better. So we already see aspects of smart traffic in Singapore, for instance, which has had a lot of intelligent transportation initiatives. We see smart grid really happening in a number of cities, being tested in Europe and also in the US. We have smart digital profiles, which means your digital profile contains everything. It contains everything from the last checkup you had at the doctor to whether you voted, even the preferences for wine or what your preferences are for travel. Increasingly, this digital profile has more and more of your information, and you carry it everywhere you go. A new city being built in Korea actually also has smart trees. And what does that mean? That means the trees send a signal. They have little sensors on them, and they send a signal to the government, and they say, we are ready to be watered. So I think that's a bit extreme, but the idea is that it's city as a platform. This is the big idea. The city becomes a platform. It is the equivalent of having an iTunes. So just like you download apps all the time on your iPhone, imagine if you could download an app for your car dashboard or for your home, or for your building or anything like that. So this is one example of the opportunity that it gives to advertising and marketing companies, for instance. Now in Tokyo, there's one vending machine for every 23 people, which is a lot of vending machines in the city. This particular smart vending machine, as you approach it, it scans your face and is able, with 75% accuracy, to determine your gender and your age. Once it does that, after that, it is able to change this digital display based on your usual age and gender preferences and provide you with a software drink that people of your age and gender usually like. This may be problematic. You may be only offered Diet Coke when you write Red Bull. But in general, it's a great opportunity for advertising companies to do this. So there has been a rush to create smart cities all over the world. There are two kinds of smart cities that we see. The first are greenfield cities, and they're called green because they're built from scratch. And so you have Songdo in South Korea. You have several coming up in China. Actually, people say that according to McKinsey, 80 new cities will be built by 2025 in China. There is Sokolovo in Russia, which is the new Silicon Valley. And there are several in India that are also being built. Actually, between Delhi and Mumbai, there's been a great announcement that 17 new smart cities will be built. And of course, in the Middle East, you have Masdar and King Abdullah city. These cities are being built from scratch, absolutely. And the other trend is to brownfield cities, and this is when you retrofit existing cities. And this is in Rio, in Austin, America, in Stockholm, in Amsterdam, and Singapore is one of the cities that is obviously trying to retrofit its infrastructure with urban intelligence. This is a huge business opportunity. Why are people running in? Why is Cisco and HP and all these companies literally rushing in? Just in terms of the technology spend, it's going to be $100 billion in 10 years, according to Pike Research. And I'm not even counting the construction, the real estate, the lead development, the sustainability, or even all the consultants that are hired. This is just pure technology dollars. And as you can imagine, there's a huge social impact opportunity too, because even when it comes to chronic disease management or any other elements in healthcare, let's take the example of Proteus Biotech. It's a company in San Francisco. It puts a little sensor in every medical drug that you would take. So you would ingest a drug, and it automatically emails your doctor saying, yes, he's been good, he took his heart medicine today. So particularly people with Alzheimer's and other such conditions where they tend to forget to take drugs and therefore obviously have repercussions because of that, this really improves that kind of issue. And also in education, of course, in sustainability with smart grids, you pay dynamically for how much you use in high consumption times. Before I go on, I would like to say that a smart city is not necessarily a great city, right? It's just technology, it's an enabler. So there's connectivity, security, efficiency, sustainability, but as human beings, we need innovation, culture, privacy, serendipity, and engagement. So a great city is technology and culture and innovation. And that's important to remember as I go on in this particular presentation. So what is really needed, therefore, is a living lab for human-centered and future-forward city technology, right? Because if you just focus on the technology side of it, then people are not going to adopt it. Then it's going to be a dead city, or it's not going to be an interesting city. But what you need is a lab, a government that allows new technologies to be tested and to be developed. And I think that Singapore is a great place to do that. In fact, Singapore, through the Economic Development Board and other departments over here, has been pushing very strongly for this. I think South Asian diaspora can actually use this as a great opportunity. Our diaspora is all over the world. This is a huge new change and revolution in technology that's happening. We can together use it not only to improve the economic growth and vitality of the diaspora, but also to make improvements, both social and business, in our home countries. Let's look at some of the people who are already making a difference. This is Rashik Pramar. He's an Indian. He's the CTO of IBM, which is a huge corporation in Europe. And he's based in London. He also teaches at Imperial College, and he's very well known when it comes to smart city platform and services. There are a lot of startups. Usman Haq is based in London. He's just sold his startup, Patch Bay, to a Boston company for millions of dollars. This was the day before yesterday. In San Francisco, Ziaz Yusuf has set up something called Streetline. And what Streetline does is, so 30% of urban traffic in San Francisco is caused by people frustratingly looking for a parking spot. So what Streetline does is it puts little sensors in all the parking spots, and then you just download an app on your iPhone, and it tells you where the free parking spot is. It's a very simple urban intelligence example. He's getting millions of dollars. He's deploying this all over America. Now, there's a diaspora people in government, too. This is Reshma Sujani. She is a deputy advocate of the Advocacy Office in New York City. She's starting a whole smart cities initiative. She is thinking constantly about innovation and technology and has been working on this for a very long time. And finally, let's not just think of the diaspora as outside South Asia. There are incubators that actually exist in Pakistan and India and Bangladesh. This is Umar Saif. He taught computer science at MIT for many years, and he went back to Pakistan, and in Lahore, he has started the country's first technology incubator, which is really great. So you see there's this great opportunity for the South Asian diaspora to come together, to collaborate with each other and use Singapore as a nexus where they meet and to create these particular technologies and then export them all over the world where cities need them constantly. And so I'm going to just walk you through, give you some examples of what the market is. In Portugal, a new city is being built called Planet Valley, which is going to have 60,000 families in 2 years. And this is a smart city which is going to be completely outfitted with networked infrastructure. Songdo, this is already built. It cost $35 billion. It's a private development, the most expensive private development built in the world. It is now operational. We were just there. I mean, I've visited most of these places. And this was built to attract foreign direct investment and to become a hub where people like businessmen from Asia and America would come and use this to access the Asian markets. And of course, business people like a place which is convenient for them. And intelligent cities make life a lot more interesting. In the UAE, they wanted to build a fully sustainable city, and they're still working on that. It's in Masdar. Now in China, where all these other cities are going to be built and which is considered a huge market, they're mostly population driven. So Meshi Lake is a second-tier city in China, and it has integrated subways and water taxis and intelligent transportation. And it's an example, this is what it will look like in a couple of years. And if you know the Chinese, they can probably build it too. Now, in the West, you can't really build new cities. I mean, you could, but they don't really need to. So there are all these revitalization projects happening. In Toronto, if you go, there's a waterfront project. It's the largest in North America. It's 2,000 acres that the Canadian government has given at low price to the real estate developers and said, build a completely smart place where innovation and entrepreneurship will thrive. And similarly, in San Francisco, as I was saying, Ziaz Yusuf is there. There are a lot of startups over there. They have this bottom-up approach because the government doesn't have that much money. So they're just using mobiles as the internet infrastructure. And a lot of interest and funds are coming up for urban intelligence. And in India, too, you know, there's a new city being built in Lavasa. It's gotten a lot of problems recently because of corruption, but it was an effort. It did start building between Cisco and Wipro. So these are top-down, where they're built from scratch. But I think there's a lot of potential for bottom-up smart cities, too. For instance, Dharavi, a lot of people there have mobile phones, and I think that there's a lot of interesting innovation that we can see that will come through there. So in conclusion, my point in this particular presentation was to introduce the hybrid age and to show that it's really an age of opportunity. For the South Asian diaspora, and we've actually been quite active in technology revolutions in the information age, this is another opportunity for us. And we are already beginning to see some young stars come in where we can use local networks, because a lot of these cities are in Asia. Therefore, we can also use Singapore as a living lab, and Singapore's government is already encouraging people to do this. We can collaborate with each other. And we really need to think of city as a platform. This is the Internet of Things, and the city as a platform is the next big market boom. After Facebook's IPO next year, after we go through a little bit of a bust, you'll see a lot of funding will rush to the Internet of Things, and this has the potential to be much bigger and catalyze development in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, because through this new technology revolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayesha. I attended a conference in Shimla last month, which was supposed to be about caste, but it kept coming back constantly to urbanization, to cities, and what was happening in cities, and how cities would better cope. If we're looking for a theme for the next South Asia Diaspora Convention, urbanization might be a candidate.